Owen Mitchell gazed out the cabin window, watching snowflakes drift lazily over the rugged mountain slopes. Behind him, the Christmas tree shimmered with lights, meticulously decorated by a service he'd hired while at the office. Gifts he'd purchased online sat neatly underneath, wrapped by strangers. Labeled for relatives he would see for exactly 3 hours on Christmas Day before making excuses to leave. At 35, Owen was the CEO of Mitchell Tech, a software company he had grown from the ground up into a multi-million-dollar empire. By every measurable standard, he had achieved everything he had ever worked for. Wealth, success, and a picturesque cabin in the mountains where he could escape the city's relentless pace. Yet, despite it all, he had no one to truly share it with. His last serious relationship had ended 2 years ago, when his girlfriend finally realized she would never be his priority over work. Since then, friends had relentlessly tried to push him into dating, arranging blind dates with a zeal that often felt borderline aggressive. "You can't keep hiding behind your laptop," his best friend Marcus had scolded just last week. "One day you'll wake up 50, rich, accomplished, and completely alone." "I'm fine being alone," Owen had replied. "Relationships are messy, time-consuming, and frankly a distraction I don't have room for." But the reality gnawed at him. He had come to the cabin under the guise of seeking a peaceful Christmas, telling himself he needed solitude to recharge. The truth was simpler. He just wanted to avoid the familiar pang of being the odd one out, the endless questions about when he would finally settle down. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Annual Christmas party tonight?" Owen typed back, "I'm at the cabin, 3 hours away." "Can't make it." The reply was almost instant. "Excuses. Roads are clear. Drag your antisocial self down here. It's Christmas Eve." Marcus was right about the roads, and refusing again would only trigger more lectures about his self-imposed isolation. Maybe 1 hour at the party wouldn't kill him. 3 hours later, Owen found himself in Marcus's bustling living room, nursing a drink while making a half-hearted effort to appear interested in conversations he didn't care about. The house was full of Marcus's friends and colleagues, most of whom he barely knew. "Owen Mitchell, as I live and breathe," a voice called from behind. The hermit emerges from his cave. Owen turned to see Jessica Park, another of Marcus's close friends, grinning at him. "Hello, Jessica," he said. "Don't bother pretending," she shot back. "We all know you only came because Marcus strong-armed you. But now that you're here, we're playing a game." "I don't do games," Owen said flatly. "This one you will," Jessica replied, mischief twinkling in her eyes. "It's called Christmas Dares. Everyone draws a card with a challenge. Complete it before midnight, or you owe $100 to a charity chosen by the group." "That's ridiculous," Owen muttered. "That's the spirit," she said with a sly smile, ignoring his protest and pulling him toward a gathering where people circled a bowl of folded cards. Owen watched as one by one, participants drew cards and read their dares aloud. Sing a carol in front of everyone. Call an ex and apologize for something you didn't do. Confess your most embarrassing secret. When it was his turn, Owen reluctantly picked a card. Opening it, he read, "Go to the address below." When someone answers, say, "I came because I heard you didn't believe in Christmas magic. Stay at least 30 minutes. An address was written at the bottom, somewhere in a residential neighborhood about 20 minutes away. "That's absurd," Owen said. "That's your dare," Marcus said suddenly, appearing beside Jessica, a grin playing on his lips like he had masterminded this himself. "And you're doing it, or paying up. Plus, you'll be forever known as the guy too scared to complete a simple Christmas dare." "I'm not scared," Owen protested. "I'm rational. This is someone's home. I'd be intruding on Christmas Eve. The person at that address knows the game," Jessica assured him. "They're expecting someone. Just go in, say the line, hang out for half an hour, and come back." "Simple," Jessica had said. Owen stared at the address again. Something about the whole setup felt off. But with his friends watching expectantly, his pride wouldn't allow him to back down over such a trivial task. "All right," he muttered. 30 minutes. 20 minutes later, he found himself outside a small, inviting home, adorned with crisp white lights and a festive wreath on the door. The snow had picked up, thickening in the air, and Owen was already questioning the wisdom of this absurd errand. He raised his hand to knock, rehearsing the ridiculous line in his head. The door swung open, and Owen completely forgot what he was supposed to say. The woman standing there was breathtaking. Even in a simple red sweater and jeans, auburn waves framed her face, and her green eyes radiated warmth and intelligence. She regarded him with curiosity but no surprise. "Can I help you?" she asked. The dare snapped back into his memory. "I came because I heard you didn't believe in Christmas magic." Her face lit up with a dazzling smile that transformed her from attractive to utterly captivating. "Well, that's quite an opening line," she said. "Are you here to prove me wrong?" Apparently," Owen stammered. This is part of a dare from a Christmas party. I'm supposed to stay for 30 minutes. I know it's strange, and I'm sorry for intruding, but my friends, they're relentless, and I just want to get this over with." She laughed, a sound so clear and musical it made his chest tighten. "You certainly have a way of making a girl feel special. I'm Natalie, by the way. And yes, I know about the game. My cousin Jessica told me someone would be stopping by." Owen felt heat rush to his face. "Jessica Park is your cousin?" he asked, trying not to sound flustered. "Yes," Natalie said with a grin. "She's been scheming to set me up for months. I finally agreed to play along just to get her off my back." "Come in before you freeze." Stepping inside, Owen was immediately enveloped by warmth. Unlike his sterile cabin or his sleek city penthouse, this house felt lived in and loved. A genuine Christmas tree stood proudly in the corner, adorned with what appeared to be handmade ornaments. A fire crackled merrily in the hearth, and a young girl, perhaps 6 years old, sat on the floor arranging a nativity scene. "Who's that, Mommy?" the girl asked, looking up at him with wide, curious brown eyes. "This is Mr. Mitchell," Natalie said. "He's here for a visit." "Oh, and this is my daughter, Sophie." Owen's stomach sank. Of course she had a child. Probably married. The situation was growing more awkward by the second. "Where's Mr. Natalie?" he asked, immediately cringing at how it came out. Natalie's smile faltered slightly. "There is no Mr. Natalie," she explained gently. "It's just Sophie and me. Has been for the past 5 years. I'm sorry if that's confusing." "It's fine," Owen said, though her voice had cooled a touch. "Would you like me to sit?" "Please come in," Natalie said, leading him to the couch. "Can I get you some hot chocolate?" Sophie and I were just about to have some. What followed was perhaps the most unusual 30 minutes of Owen's life. He sat on the couch sipping hot chocolate, while Sophie excitedly shared stories about each ornament. And Natalie chimed in with explanations and corrections. The little girl was endlessly charming, her enthusiasm infectious. Natalie's patience and warmth toward her stirred something unfamiliar in Owen's chest, something tender and unsettling. "That one's from when Mommy taught me to ice skate," Sophie said, pointing to an ornament shaped like a skate. "I fell 100 times, but Mommy said, that's how you learn." "Falling down is part of learning," Owen found himself saying. "In business, we call it failing forward." "What's business?" Sophie asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "It's how grown-ups make money," Natalie explained. "What kind of business are you in, Owen?" "I run a tech company," he replied. "Software development," Owen began, then caught himself before going into technical jargon that would bore a 6-year-old. "I make computer programs that help other companies run more smoothly." "That sounds important," Natalie said, and Owen wasn't sure if she meant it sincerely or was just being polite. "It keeps the lights on," he added with a shrug. "What about you?" "I teach 2nd grade at Lincoln Elementary," she replied. "Not nearly as lucrative as tech, but I love it." "I help kids learn to read," Sophie chimed in proudly. "Mommy says reading is like magic because it lets you go anywhere and be anyone." "Your mom sounds very wise," Owen said genuinely. As the minutes passed, Owen felt a rare ease settling over him. Natalie was easy to converse with. Her questions suggested real curiosity rather than polite small talk. Sophie's enthusiasm was infectious, and the warmth of the house made Owen painfully aware of how cold and empty his own spaces felt. When his phone buzzed with a message from Marcus asking if he'd finished the dare, Owen realized in surprise that not just 30 minutes, but nearly an hour had gone by. "I probably should be going," he said reluctantly. "I've intruded on your Christmas Eve long enough." "You haven't intruded at all," Natalie replied sincerely. "This has been really nice. Sophie and I don't usually have company on Christmas Eve." "Why not?" he asked, immediately regretting the personal question. "My daughter's father left when she was a baby. My family lives far away, and most of my friends are with their own families tonight. Usually it's just us," Natalie explained. Sophie jumped in. "We have our traditions. We bake cookies, watch movies, and read together on Christmas Eve. Mommy always says Christmas magic is real, even if I'm too old to believe in Santa." "You're never too old to believe in magic," Natalie said softly, tucking a strand of hair behind Sophie's ear. "Magic is just hope, wonder, and believing that good things can happen." Owen felt a subtle shift in his chest. "I really should go," he said again. But he didn't move. "Or," Natalie said slowly, meeting his gaze, "you could stay a little longer. We have plenty of cookies, and Sophie loves having an audience for her movie commentary." "Please stay," Sophie interjected, bouncing on her toes. "You seem sad, and Mommy says nobody should be sad on Christmas Eve." "I'm not sad," Owen protested. "You have sad eyes," Sophie said bluntly, as only children can. "Like you forgot how to really smile." Owen looked at the little girl who had somehow seen through him in under an hour, then at Natalie, who watched him with a knowing expression, one that seemed more like an invitation than obligation. "I guess I could stay a little longer," Owen heard himself admit. 1 hour stretched into 2, then 3. They baked cookies together, with Sophie gleefully critiquing his decorating attempts. They watched a Christmas movie, and Owen couldn't help but laugh at Sophie's running commentary. Natalie pulled out a worn copy of The Night Before Christmas. When she asked if Owen wanted to read, he found himself saying yes. Sitting on the couch with Sophie curled up on one side and Natalie on the other, reading about holiday magic and wonder, Owen felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Belonging. A sense that this simple, shared moment mattered more than any accomplishment or fortune he had earned. After Sophie was tucked into bed, Natalie returned to find Owen still on the couch, staring into the fire. "You don't have to stay," she said softly. "The dare is long since completed." "I know," Owen replied, "but I don't want to leave." "Is that unusual?" Natalie asked, sitting close enough that he could smell the subtle warmth of her perfume. "Not strange at all," he admitted. "I don't want you to leave either." "Your cousin set this up, didn't she?" Owen asked. "This wasn't random," Natalie said with a laugh. "Jessica has been scheming for months. She works with Marcus, heard about you, decided we'd be perfect for each other, and orchestrated this whole elaborate plan. I told her you'd probably hate it, but she insisted." "I didn't hate it," Owen said quietly. "This has been the best Christmas Eve I've had in years. Maybe ever. Really?" Natalie looked genuinely surprised. "Better than whatever billionaire CEO parties you usually attend?" "I don't go to those," Owen admitted. "I either work or hide in my cabin, pretending I prefer solitude. Tonight, sitting here with you and Sophie, I remembered what I've been missing." "And what's that?" Natalie asked softly. "Connection," Owen said. "A sense of purpose that isn't measured in profit margins. The feeling of actually being somewhere I want to be, rather than somewhere I feel obligated to be," Owen said quietly. Natalie was silent for a moment before speaking. "Can I tell you something that might seem a little forward? When Jessica described her plan to me, I looked you up. Successful CEO, impressive resume, kind of intimidating from the outside. I expected someone arrogant, distant, or just going through the motions for a dare. But instead, you sat on my floor playing with my daughter. You listened to her stories like they mattered. You read to her as if it were the most important thing you could be doing. That isn't who I expected you to be." "Maybe I'm not who I expected to be either," Owen admitted. "I've been so focused on success that I forgot to actually live." He turned to her. "Natalie, I know this is fast and weird and that we met through an elaborate setup, but I'd like to see you again. Not because of a dare or some obligation, but because tonight reminded me of what I've been missing. You, Sophie, this house. The way you make Christmas feel meaningful instead of just another day to survive. Natalie smiled, and Owen felt his heart skip. I'd like that too, she said softly. Fair warning, I come as a package deal. Sophie and I are a team. I wouldn't want it any other way, Owen said honestly. The next day and the day after, they spent time together. Owen met Sophie for breakfast, helped them build a snowman, and joined in a low-key New Year's Eve celebration with sparkling cider and board games rather than champagne and formal parties. Over the following months, Owen began reshaping his life around Natalie and Sophie. He scaled back his work hours, delegated responsibilities to capable colleagues, and realized his company thrived even without him micromanaging every detail. He taught Sophie about computers and business in ways that made learning fun. She, in turn, showed him how to see the world with fresh eyes, how to find joy in little things. And Natalie, warm, patient, brilliant Natalie, helped him understand that love was not a distraction from life. It was what made life worth living. A year after that Christmas Eve dare, Owen proposed, not at a luxurious restaurant, but in Natalie's living room, in front of the same tree where he first felt at home. Sophie had helped pick out the ring and could barely contain her excitement. I came to your door because of a dare, Owen said as he knelt. I thought I was fulfilling an obligation and leaving. Instead, I found everything I didn't know I'd been missing. You taught me that success without connection is just loneliness in an expensive suit. That magic exists when you have someone to share it with, and that home isn't a place. It's the people who make you want to stay. Will you marry me? Yes, Natalie said through tears. Sophie leapt into their arms, shouting that this was the best Christmas magic ever, even though it was July. Years later, when people asked how they met, Owen loved retelling the story of the Christmas dare that changed his life. How he'd thought blind dates and setups were jokes, until a cousin's plan and a snowy evening led him to a door he might never have opened on his own. Every Christmas Eve, they recreated that first night, baking cookies, watching movies, and reading together, reminding themselves that the best moments often come from saying yes to dares, from opening doors we'd normally leave shut, and from believing in magic even when we think we're too practical for it. That snowy Christmas Eve had taught Owen that success alone meant nothing compared to sitting on a couch with a woman who challenged him and a child who trusted him, that the most meaningful things in life can't be scheduled or controlled. And sometimes, Christmas magic finds us precisely when we need it most, even when we're certain we've outgrown it. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that love often arrives when we stop running from it, or that family can appear in the most unexpected ways, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales about second chances, Christmas magic, and the courage to open our hearts. Share in the comments a time when something you thought was silly turned into something meaningful, or when you learned to believe in magic again. Sometimes the best gifts are wrapped in the dares we almost refuse.